A very warm welcome to one and all. Bonjour, Neha, salut, and namaste to my lovely participants and guests. My name is Neha Jain, and I will be your host for the summit. It is rightly said that young people should be at the forefront of global change and innovation. Empowered, they can be the key agents for development and peace. On this note, now I would like to introduce my co-host Neelam, who is herself a young citizen belonging to an indigenous community. She calls herself a climate activist and has been a part of Pratyek for the last 5 years. Pratyek is a child rights and earth rights organization which believes in educating children and their care providers in the art of advocacy and justice. Pratyek collaborates with a wide network of organizations and schools and helps spread its vision of every child standing for every right for everyone. Neelam is also a member of a local youth parliament called Pratyek, which is a Hindi word for direct. We believe it is time for us to speak directly to the national parliament and all levels of governance for the village to the international sector because our voice matters. Neelam has also been a part of organizing monthly climate strikes outside India's national parliament in support of Greta Thunberg's Fridays for Future.
Thank you, Neha, for that introduction. Welcome to the Earth Summit 2021. Thanks for joining in. I would like to request all our participants to rename themselves. If you are a child delegate, please rename to D dash your name dash country allocated. If you are a child attendee, please rename to A dash your name dash country. For our adult attendees, please rename to O your name dash your country. For our panelists, please change your name to P dash your name dash organization dash country. You can change your name by clicking on the participants button below and then click on your name and choose the rename option. Our team members will share this on chat box for your reference. In case you are unable to change your name, kindly ask your mentors or family members who are around you. Also, I would like to inform all our participants that we have translation available in Hindi and Sign language. For those that would like Hindi interpretation, please click in interpretation button below and choose the Hindi option. For those participants that require sign interpretation, kindly pin Ms. Erin's video. Neha herself is a 17-year-old budding social activist and a civil service aspirant. She has actively been working in collaboration with various NGOs for the past few years for causes like child rights, healthcare, and environmental conservation. She has been an active volunteer at Pratyek, from coming on ground for COVID relief to participating in campaigns and initiatives such as Pratyek Children's Parliament, Summer of C119, and Art for Advocacy. Neha has left no stone unturned to contribute to society. What strikes her most about Pratyek is its Nine is Mine campaign. It is a national advocacy campaign of, for, and by children. The purpose of the campaign is to put children from across the country, for both general and vulnerable children in particular, at the center of advocacy efforts. Speaking in one voice to enable every child to enjoy basic health care and quality education as their non-negotiable rights.
Now, as we all know, ecosystems, the fabric of life on which we depend, is rapidly declining because of our actions. We have been using more and more natural resources, and this has come at a cost. At this crucial time, Pratyek, in collaboration with Edmund Rice International, welcomes you to the first ever Earth Summit. Edmund Rice International is a non-governmental organization based in Geneva and working in 30 countries for children and young people who are marginalized because of poverty, lack of access to education, legal status, and environmental degradation. We heartily welcome our partners to the summit.
So, the Earth Summit 2021 is stretched out over a course of 3 days, where we aim to represent youth's voice from over 193 countries and territories to discuss their concern on environmental problems. This 3 day of immense discussion will culminate in the creation of collaborative list of recommended solutions, which will then be submitted to COP26 scheduled in November this year.
Thank you, Neelam, for that insight of the program. Now, you might be wondering why we named our summit as Earth Summit with ER highlighted. Any guesses? Any guesses in the audience? Please raise your hands to attempt the guesses. You can unmute yourself.
Maybe because it is related to Earth.
Okay, anyone else?
Because many countries are participating. I think environmental issues.
Okay, okay.
Environmental. Like and like ER and OUR something sounds similar. Maybe that because
Okay, okay. Thank you for your responses.
I think it's a big concern.
Edmund Rice.
Oh, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. So ER denotes primarily Earth rights, but it also represents Edmund Rice, our patron and renowned social activist. We are the presence of Edmund Rice International in India, and E for us signifies Edmund, education, empathy, empowerment, ethics for every right, for the earth, for every child, for everyone. Now, I would also like to re-emphasize on the fact that we have interpretations available in sign language and Hindi. For those who would like to use Hindi interpretation, please click the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. Those who prefer sign interpretation, please pin the video of Miss Aaron on your screen.
Since Pratik is a child rights organization, it believes in the safeguarding of its network of children. And now, we would like to brief you on child safeguarding.
Pratik, in order to maintain child safeguarding, has taken necessary precautions by appointing individual staff who will monitor participants at all times. We encourage you not to share personal contact details in the chat box or during the breakout sessions. Please do not promote your personal social media handles for safety purposes. Please follow the Zoom etiquettes. We request all of you to be respectful of every individual at the forum. Please do not send random or disrespectful messages in the chat box in the plenary and the breakout sessions. In case of any safeguarding incident or potential concerns, please report to schoold@pratik.org.in or 91999911436999 or your mentors. We will share this information in the chat box, and it is also visible in front of your screens.
Thank you, Neha. We will be sure to follow the rules on maintaining the decorum of the summit.
Did you know this year 9is Mine will be launching a shadow report on the Convention on the Rights of the Child and Universal Periodic Review with the children of India. Children across India will be engaging with multiple stakeholders from local to national levels for the same, including the local administration bodies, members of legislative assemblies, members of parliament, bureaucrats, and other stakeholders. Along with this report, 9is Mine will also be creating the COP26 report, where all your recommendations will be incorporated. To be a part of this, just click on the link mentioned in the chat box Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, where we regularly post our upcoming events. And you can be a part of all of them by being a global ambassador for Pratyek.
Now, we open the floor of our panel discussion. We welcome our panelists to India. In order to build on our community vibe, we will be referring to our panelists with Bhaiya and Didi titles. For our foreigner participants, I would like to explain these terms. Bhaiya in Hindi means elder brother, and in Didi in Hindi means elder sister. And with this, we seek to develop a sense of community. Before we begin, may I please ask our panelists to limit your speech to 7 minutes. Aileen, our team member, will ring a bell at the end of 7 minutes as a reminder. So the first panelist of the day is Ms. Sidel Frederick. She is a sociologist senior advisor on child rights and partnership. She has been a program executive for child rights and partnerships manager for the World Council of Children for 9 years and has 20 years of experience in facilitating consultative processes among international partners. She enjoys rallying different ways of thinking behind joint goals and has crafted and implemented strategic frameworks for UNICEF and the WCC, including monitoring and evaluation. She shares a passion for child rights, child-friendly communities, environmental protection, and child climate mitigation. We welcome you, Frederick D. Please unmute yourself and address the audience.
Thank you so much, and big thank you to Pratyek, and greetings from the World Council of Churches. The WCC represents about 500 million Christians worldwide through its member churches in 120 countries. Together with UNICEF, we have developed a program called the Church's Commitments to Children. This was launched in 2015 and developed through a broad consultative process. It led to the umbrella of all our activities, which have 3 pillars: child protection, meaningful participation by children and teenagers, and intergenerational climate justice for and with children. In fact, to develop this action plan, we consulted with many experts, in particular children, in a lot of countries, including India. And it was the children who urged us to please include a pillar on climate justice. This was between 2015 and 17, when they asked for the churches to please help them have their voices lifted up. What is this Commitment 3 all about? Well, the churches engaging in this program aim to ensure eco-responsibilities in all their decisions and operations. They are asked to consult children and adolescents and allow them to participate in decision-making. We promote children and youth to be at the center of plans and programs in the response to the climate crisis. We would like to see more and more children like Sri Nehaal or Elizabeth Bathruthi and the many others who have come up with extremely innovative ideas and solutions to the climate crisis and environmental problems in general. Therefore, we have developed this toolkit, a toolkit in which we have mapped a variety of capacity building materials to inspire, inform, and help children to take action. In this toolkit, you can find resources such as the world's largest lesson, the ERth School, but also many concrete examples which inspire for different activities adapted to national contexts. This includes also child-led court cases, like the one of children who submitted a complaint to the Committee on the Rights of the Child. And there is a number of suggestions for taking actions For example, becoming a young champion of the earth, applying for different awards. But at the moment, we focus a lot on encouraging everyone to use their power as consumers, ask for transparency in all products, including school materials and furniture. But because it seems so unfair for children worldwide to do their utmost to address the climate crisis, when in parallel, the banks are fueling the climate crisis every day, we also have a lot of activities now to really encourage everyone to talk to the bank's CEOs.
They're muted.
I'm muted. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
In Switzerland, we have teenagers protesting in front of banks, urging them to invest into renewable energies rather than fossil fuels. In Canada, we have teenagers developing pledges to ask adults to please stop using banks that invest so heavily into fossil fuels. We are basing this activity in a report which was published, which is called Banking on Climate Chaos, which shows how much the different banks are actually every day contributing to the climate crisis. And we have found that there are so many good practices of churches and partners who have made a very strict plea to their banks to not use their money in any way to fuel the climate crisis. But at the same time, they're making benefits because renewable energies are bringing a lot of good results also financially. So we encourage you all to step into your power by becoming a young champion of the earth, to ask for participation in decision-making and encourage everyone to measure their footprints. We also encourage children to promote ideas for a planetary pass. Not long ago, nobody would have thought that something like COVID could happen and that then a sanitary pass be introduced in different countries. This means that we could imagine that soon there could be a planetary pass to regulate the CO2 emissions and not allow just rich people to pollute because they can with the money they have, and have some climate justice through measurement tools. All the resources which were produced to support children can be found on this webpage, oikumene.org. Children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sitelvi. That was indeed really insightful, from talking about the concept of intergenerational justice to the resourceful toolkit on climate solutions. That was indeed really powerful, and we got the message that power lies in us, all of us. And I'm so overwhelmed to see the amount of participation, and I would like to request everyone to rename yourself. If you're a child delegate, please rename yourself to D-your name -your country allocated. If you are a child attendee, please rename yourself to A-your name -country. For our adult attendees, please rename yourself to O-your name -your country. So moving ahead, let's invite the next panelist of the day, Analisa Ramsahai. She is a steering group member for the Laudato Si generation. It is the youth branch of the Laudato Si movement, an international network of over 800 Catholic organizations. It works in mobilizing for climate justice to call the church and the world to action. Dee also serves as a board member for the Laudato Si movement. She is presently working in the Caribbean region as the regional program coordinator at the Franciscan Institute for Personal and Family Development, a ministry of the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mort. We welcome you, Dee. Please unmute yourself and address the audience.
Greetings, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you from the Caribbean island of Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm very delighted to be sharing with you today about the topic, the impact of climate change and upon vulnerable children and communities. And I really like to thank all of the organizers and attendees for joining today on this esteemed ERth Summit panel. And the Laudato Si generation, as mentioned, it is an international youth ministry of the Laudato Si movement, formerly known as the Global Catholic Climate Movement. So thankfully we have members from 6 continents across the globe. So today, as I shared, I'll be presenting to you on this topic, right? So all across the world, many communities are facing the impacts of climate change today. And you may be aware that scientists have reported in many of the reports, and the most recent one, the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, they recently published in 2021 that the Earth, our blue planet, is turning red. There is a code red for humanity because there is an increase in the atmospheric carbon dioxide and the greenhouse gas emissions. And this is causing it to warm. The global surface temperatures are increasing. So last year alone in 2020, it was the hottest year on record. So the damaging effects of climate change are seen in all corners of the world. You can see cyclones, typhoons, floodings, wildfires. You can see the accelerating melting of the glaciers, the rise in sea levels, and it is affecting poor communities, especially our children, especially you, and especially Indigenous persons, because the most vulnerable communities, they are the ones who have contributed least to the climate crisis, but they are affected the most. And children, and I want to focus today on children as the vulnerable communities and people affected, because according to the UNICEF report, children make up half of the population in developing countries. And 1 billion children are at risk, extremely high risk of being affected by climate crisis. And it is exacerbated by this COVID-19 pandemic. So this is a reality that we are all facing in this world today. Climate-related impacts leave children vulnerable to the threat of, so let's say there is a disaster that strikes, right? Children's health and well-being are impacted also. For example, children can become displaced. They can become climate refugees. In severe drought, in severe flooding, whether there's air pollution or water scarcity, children are vulnerable to malnutrition because of the lack of food or food shortages. They are vulnerable to the exposure of diseases such as diarrhea, malaria, by drinking unsanitary water, by having the lack of access to proper healthcare facilities. And the children, they are in their development stage, so they would have a mature immune system that makes them more susceptible to the harmful effects of these diseases. And their respiratory system are now developing as well. So they're, for example, in heat waves, they will experience heat stress. They're more prone to hypothermia and those sorts of things, asthma in air polluted areas. And, this may be a reality in some of you in your country. Children may become displaced, right? They may lose access to going to school. They may lose access to having proper healthcare. They may be compelled to work in order to survive and care for their families. And I have been working a lot of exploitation cases right here in our region as well. So vulnerable children can become victims of sexual exploitation, of labor exploitation, and they're at a risk of sexual abuse, violent, emotional, and physical abuse because of this displacement, because of the migration that they may have faced. And they may face even discrimination because of poverty and racism. Death is a reality as well, from malnutrition, from hunger, from flooding, all sorts of things. So these are just a few examples how children can be vulnerable to the threat of the climate-related impacts that they may face from this climate crisis. So I represent the Laudato Si generation, and it is an international youth ministry, and we are calling on all leaders across the world whether it is faith-based organizations or political leaders. We are calling them for climate justice. The young people are demanding change, and you can see images of our members from all across the world. We have from Europe, Australia, in the continent of Africa. We see Greta Thunberg. We really support her in her Fridays for Future. And you see our leaders as well, Pope Francis and other church leaders, that we do call to take action, because we represent also the moral voices on our responsibility to care for the earth, our common home that we all share, and we all want to share it with those who come after us. So you are the future, you are our leaders, and you would be our decision makers in very soon. So the Laudato Si generation, for those who are interested and would like to know more and even become members of the Laudato Si generation, we represent a network of groups and movements of people. As Pope Francis says, young people demand change. And as Greta Thunberg says, the one thing we need more than hope is action. And we are calling on you today to take action. And I thank the organizers for having this tremendous summit for you to share today. So thank you very much. And I hand you over to our host.
Thank you, Analisa D, for providing and sharing information on impacts on climate crisis and the risk for vulnerable children. We as a young youth will raise our voice and work on climate justice. And now I would like to invite our next panelist, Ms. Anne Nichols. She currently has a role with the Edmund Rice Network in England as a network facilitator. She works with schools both in UK and Ireland, as well as globally through Edmund Rice Education Beyond Borders, that is EREB, on leadership, social justice, and advocacy projects. She is a former linguist, having taught languages in high school for 20 years. She also has been involved in global learning focused on care for the earth, leading a British Council connecting classroom project with 4 schools on waste reduction and coordinating opportunities for staff and students to be better informed about climate emergency as well as coordinating actions we can take to combat it. Please unmute yourself, Andy, and address the audience.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. And a very good afternoon to you all from England. I'm certainly
Good afternoon.
Hello. So I'm very honoured to be with all of the young people here, keen eco-activists who are advocating on behalf of the planet, on behalf of its depleted biodiversity, its polluted oceans, its poisoned air, and its suffering cultures and communities. I salute all of you who are standing up for Earth rights, for defending our common home, and saying it's time to imagine a better future, a cleaner and fairer future, and not to be a generation that selfishly destroys the world. I'm not sure if you have my slides, Anisha.
Yes, we'll be sharing it.
So I'm here to talk to you about COP26 and how young people can be involved in advocating for change that they want the world leaders to commit to at the climate negotiations that will happen in Glasgow in just 4 weeks' time. But before we do get to COP26 and how you can be involved, firstly, I want to show you this person. Does anybody know who she is? If you do, you can type it into the chat.
And the UN has declared that Madagascar is on the brink of the world's first climate change famine. Tens of thousands of people are already suffering catastrophic levels of hunger and food insecurity after 4 years without rain. Who is going to pay for Madagascar? And of course, this is not just happening on the African continent. Hurricanes Irma, Maria, Dorian, and Harold have left some islands in the Caribbean and Pacific totally uninhabitable. 6 million Bangladeshis have become displaced as a consequence of climate change. By 2050, 17% of the country's coastline will vanish underwater, creating an estimated 30 million climate refugees. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature recently announced that there are now well over 38,000 species on its red list, the best available catalogue we have of the species facing extinction. Who is going to pay for the lost islands of the Caribbean and Pacific? Who is going to pay for the communities who must flee the Bangladeshi coastline? Who is going to pay for the thousands of species that fall off of the scientists' red list and into the oblivion? How long shall the land mourn? How long shall the farms lay in ruins? How long shall the herbs of every field wither? How long shall the animals and the birds perish? How long shall children be given up for marriage because their families have lost everything to the climate crisis? How long shall children sleep hungry because their farms have been washed away, because their crops have been dried up because of the extreme weather conditions? How long are we to watch them die of thirst in the droughts and gasp for air in the floods? What is the state of the hearts of the world leaders who watch this happen and allow it to continue?
Thank you. So some people did correctly put into the chat that this is Vanessa. Her name is Vanessa Nakate, and she is a Ugandan climate activist. This was a clip from her keynote speech that she's given right this week at Youth for Climate, which is a pre-COP26 event taking place as we speak in Doha. I want you to have a little think about her speech, and I want you to write what you put in, what you think about the speech, and think about what was effective. What was effective about this speech? Type into the chat what you think was effective. Hopefully you can see people's comments in the chat. Yes, conviction and passion. Anything else about it that you thought was effective? Emotive language, hard work. Yeah, she talked about people living in different situations all over the world. So what Vanessa does is, and what she does in this speech, is she gives details. She knows her facts, and the facts are undeniable. She talks about the effects that have happened or are happening because of climate change. She named particular areas of the world. She named particular disasters that have happened. This means that she's not over dramatizing, but she's telling the truth, and she's making the world leaders who are listening and in fact, everyone who is listening, uncomfortable. She says that climate change is not just an idea or a glossy campaign on social media, but an undeniable reality that is affecting many areas of the planet and its most vulnerable people, including her own Ugandan people, as well as destroying the precious flora and fauna. So knowing your facts is a keystone to effective advocacy, especially if it is something from your heart, a local issue that you know about and are affected by. I would definitely urge you to watch Vanessa's full speech and to follow her on social media. Can you play the next slide, please?
Anne, sorry to interrupt, but we've finished your time slot.
Oh, okay.
So we can come back to you at the end.
Okay.
Probably if you want to give a closing remark, you can give that, and then we can come back to you at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Lee. And it was definitely very inspiring and an extraordinary presentation. And the facts were truly hard-hitting and motivated us to perform such kind of advocacy. So with this, I would also like to repeat that please rename yourself. Also, the delegates who joined us in the morning, please rename yourself as D. Please do not rename yourself as D. Rename yourself as A dash your name dash your country. Now I would like to invite Ms. Kayla Brittan. She is a human rights defender and child safeguarding champion from South Africa. She is the Chief Operating Officer at the award-winning human rights organization, the Justice Desk, which focuses on educating, advocating, and equipping youth, government, civil society, and vulnerable groups across South Central Africa in human rights. The organization is a partner of the World Summit of Nobel Peace Prize laureates and the Queen's Commonwealth Trust. Kayla has traveled extensively learning, piloting, and researching best practice methods for child safeguarding in grassroots community projects. She mentors and trains various nonprofit organizations in child safeguarding and the formation of child protection policies. Her work has been commended and used by international donor agencies in both the UK and Ireland. Please unmute yourself, Kayla Di, and address the audience.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's really perfect. It's really great to be here. And I first want to say I am so phenomenally empowered, or I feel empowered and inspired by the young people here today that have taken time out of their days to really get involved in the action. And it's really what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about why it is important for our young people to be at the forefront of the change that we want to see in this world. And I think just seeing today how young people have all come together, to really challenge what is going on in this world and look at the root causes of our issues, which a lot of it has to do with climate change and the prevailing levels of inequality that are resulting in young people having to fight for their futures. Because let's be real, and I'm going to be honest with my presentation here. We as young people have been placed in a very difficult position. Our world, our planet is at the point of extinction. We are at the point where change needs to happen, and we are going to have to be the ones who do it. And at first that sounds terrifying, but I have to admit, in all the work that I've done over the years and all the children that I've had the pleasure of working alongside, we have had incredible young people change this world. We have had them stand up and make the changes they want to see. You know why? Because we are the generations, the young generations that do. We are not the generations that wait. And I think that it is incredibly important for all of us to realize the power that we hold. Because as young people in this world, we have often been told, no, you cannot make a change. You are too young. You do not have the power. Think about that when you're older. Think about that when you can vote. But what I'm here to tell you today is that is absolute nonsense. You are voting every single day of your lives. every single action, every single vote that you make in life, every single purchase you make, every single word you use, and the way you carry your body is a vote towards something. We teach a lot of children that we work with here in South Africa, because gender-based violence is a huge issue in our country. We tell them that every action you do votes for something. And if you want to change it, if you want to end gender-based violence, think of what you vote for in your life. Are you standing up? Are you taking the time to realize that you have a part to play in this world? And majority of the time, our young people are saying, you know what? Yes, I am. I know the effects I have. It doesn't matter if I've been told for many, many years that I do not have the power to change things, because I can tell you now you do. Our young people have marched. Our young people have stood together and changed the way systems are working in our country. Young people are challenging the status quo, and the status quo being that, you know, some people succeed and some people fail. Our young people are staying up and saying, no, that is not where we are. We are here to come together, to work together, and be the current generation's leaders. You are not the leaders of tomorrow. You are the leaders of today. And why do I say that? Because the future is in all of your hands. As young people, we have the power to make the change. The SDG model says that, you know, we don't want to leave anyone behind. And we know the importance of leaving people behind. We know the importance of what it means if we do not let children sit at the table. For many, many years, young people were not involved in the United Nations decisions. They were not involved in key campaigns. They were not involved in the democratic decisions in our countries. Nowadays, people are realizing if children are not at the table with us, change will not happen. Children, young people are the change. You are the key change makers, the key innovators. And if you just look at today, how young people are ready to participate, they're ready to challenge. The questions they are asking is all about, what can I do to alleviate the suffering of my peers? What can I do to make a change? And I think as we are currently in the history of time now that we are the largest generation of youth ever. There has never been more of us than there is now at this current moment. So we can really take up the stance and realize this is change that we need to make together, and this is change we can make. I don't know how many of you have been told you cannot make a difference. It's not possible to create change. Many people have told me that. Many people have told me that no, children do not have a place in the change. They do not have a place to do that. But that is not the truth, because why? The question I always ask those people is, have you tried? And they have always said no. When I ask young people, they say change can happen. And I say, have you tried? And they say, yes, I am trying every day. And I'm going to make a change, and I will make a change, and I have made a change. We are not the generation that is waiting for a knight in shining armor to save us. We are the knight in shining armors. We are the young people who are going to stand up and be the change that needs to happen. Young people from across the world, even just in our organization, have changed the face of the way we live our lives. They are challenging human rights violations. They are challenging gender-based violence in our country. And they are taking up the call to recognize that we need to challenge the climate crisis. If we do not challenge the climate crisis, we will not have a future. We will not have the opportunity to share the amazing lessons that we have learned as the young people of this time. We will not be able to share with generations after us the power that it is to be a human rights defender, to value all people regardless of their race, their gender identity, or anything that holds them different to one another. We are the generation of young people who can celebrate, who can recognize difference and value it. And that is why young people need to take up action. You need to recognize the power you have, the platforms that you can create. And if you are in a position of power, use it to make sure that the voices of young people around you are able to speak, are able to elevate their voices, and able to challenge. Because I guarantee you, the best solutions I have ever come across are from our young people, are from our children. Why? They think of each other. They do not just think of one person. This is incredibly important. We have a combination of strengths as young people, and that is that we come from diverse backgrounds, but we have one common thread that unites us, and that is a passion for positive social change, positive environmental change, positive change in general. And that, I'm telling you now, is going to bring about a revolution. It is going to bring about a revolution that will bring our earth rights to the forefront of what we do, which will ultimately ensure that those who are often left behind by the climate crisis, those most vulnerable, are brought to the forefront as well and protected. Earth rights, human rights, they link to each other. We are passionate about human rights, we are passionate about children's rights, but we do not have any of those if we do not have earth rights that are protected. You as young people, I am telling you now, I am promising you now, the change that I see from young people is what motivates me to want to continue on in this world. That motivates me, that I know that when I end this, we are going to be the change. You are going to be the change. It doesn't matter if you're 10 years old, if you're 13 years old, if you're 7 years old, if you are 25, you can be the change. And I ask you that at the end of this, you remind yourself that you are strong, you are powerful, and you have the ability to change this world. Every choice you have matters, and every choice is valuable. And every action that you do is going to determine the future of this world. It's a big responsibility, but it's one that I know you can all handle it. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so excited to get to know more of you. And I cannot wait to hear the stories of the change that you bring about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kayla Di. I agree, as you have said, young people have the power to change the world. We will challenge the climate crisis to save it for the future generation.
Thank you so much. That was overwhelming. And now I just had an idea. Do you know what would make this summit even more fun, Neelam?
I know what you are thinking. It's pop quiz time.
Yes, that's correct. Now our audience would answer the questions shown on the screen. Remember, you'll have 30 seconds to answer this question.
Which day is Earth Day? Is it the 22nd of April? Or the 21st of December? Or maybe it's the 12th of August? Come on, guys, hurry up. Okay, so 85% of people have the right answer. So the correct answer is 2nd of April. Earth Day falls on April 22nd. Earth Day falls on 22nd. This is a nearly 50-year-old tradition established in 1970, dedicated to bringing the environment to the forefront. Each year, Earth Day Network works to bring together communities around the world in a huge campaign to tackle modern-day environmental problems in an effort to continue the Earth Day tradition. Last year, Pratik has given a license by TEDx to conduct its countdown program in India. More than 23,000 participants were a part of this event, which has global participants, including Pope Francis, Prince William, Antonio Guterres, Savant Cullen Suzuki, and many more. This year, Pratik, on 10th December, we will come out with a second countdown program. To be a part of the event, keep your eyes peeled on our social handles. I will share the link on the chat box.
And now I would like to invite Dr. Nehaal Mayur to the podium. Dr. Nehaal grew up to be an international development expert and a global citizen who has been working on sustainable development goals. His 10 years of untiring and passionate journey includes working from ground level of implementation to capacity building, research, need assessment, and designing the framework for public policy. He is currently serving as a representative to the United Nations Department for Global Communication for the United Nations Association Zimbabwe. He is also highly recognized for his esteemed work for emergency disaster zones to refugee camps, committee negotiations on social development, and as an observer at the United Nations General Assembly. We welcome you, sir. Please unmute yourself and address the audience.
Thank you very much, Pratik, for organizing such an important event. And 7 minutes to speak for 3.5 billion people, children on the planet, it is very difficult. But I'm very thankful to my previous panelists, Anne, Anneli, and Kayla, speaking about the real challenges what the children are facing currently. So I'm not gonna get into discussing about the statistics again, because the topic I'm going to talk today is on we know the challenges, we know what we are facing right now. Directly, 1.2 billion to be precise, children are directly affected to the climate change. When we breathe air, it is not just people who are living in underdeveloped countries or developing nations are facing challenges, including developed countries. The children who are living in developed countries are facing similar challenges. What the challenges are faced by underdeveloped countries and not developed countries. Give you the fact about 150 additional 150 million additional children are affected by COVID. So, like when I was going through this statistics, I was just mind boggled to see that every number which goes 100 million, 150 million, 200 million, and directly affected children. So why children are facing these challenges? So how to protect? That is what my topic is for today to speak. And the point was to be discussed now. So the different countries have a different policies to support children, and every country, if we see the manifesto of political parties or ruling parties or communities, they want to develop children and child-friendly cities. But why are we failing? What are the real challenges faced by children? What are the real challenges faced by children? Or no one understands. And the change maker here today, we should understand that how the policies are formed and who forms these policies and how we can contribute in this changes. First of all, begin from a lower level, like you live in your own community, you are an advocate, you are a leader for your community. Every individual has its own responsibility to understand the mechanism and the pain of others. So first, if you know that, okay, if you see a child victim or if you're in a school, your school friend or your neighbor friend have any type of challenges in terms of emotional health or a physical health, or if you observe like if they are facing any challenges, you have to understand and report it. That is what a leader important from a ground level. That is the first point of intervention, being a child leader or a youth advocate for yourself to begin with. That what are the stakeholders in our societies and communities who are responsible to make sure that children are safe. So we have every country, every state, every city, every village have a community or a committee which support children. Like if we talk about from a state level of Mumbai, like Mumbai is a city, we have more than 10 million children living in the city. We have 1098. That's a support mechanism where we can call up and report the incident if you see, if you face, or if you observe. So we have to be very sharp to know and to respond. That is very important. If you know your rights, then you can protect yourself and protect others. So I want to share this information that we have multi source of information available. Like I saw a previous participation from my previous.
Dr. Nehal, are you here? In case you're here, please raise your hand. I think Dr. Nehal dropped off due to some technical glitches.
So we'll hear a word from him at the later stage of the summit. And now I would like to invite Ms. Neha. She is a fellow and area convener at the Environmental Education and Awareness Division at the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI. In her almost 2-decade-long career, she has successfully led and executed over 100 projects on environmental education, awareness, and outreach activities spanning across ESD-allied areas such as water resources, energy efficiency and conservation, wastewater and its management, climate change, and more. She is also an author of multiple books and manuals. Her latest publication, Save the Rain, was declared as a national bestseller and was awarded in the category of children books by the Federation of Indian Publishers. We welcome you, ma'am, and you can now unmute yourself and address the audience.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me and allowing me to express my views on the holistic development of children in the context of climate change. Climate change has caused many problems at global and local levels, and the most vulnerable group that face the brunt of these changes are children. The efforts of alteration in climatic patterns deny children the holistic environment required for their complete development. This would jeopardize the children's fundamental rights to survival, good health, well-being, education, and nutrition, as recognized in the Convention of Rights of Child and also emphasized in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We need to take an action. So what to do? So there is a necessity for children to put forward their perspectives on environmental issues and take actions to address climate-related risks. For this, there is an urgent need to educate children about the impacts of climate change and promote environmentally sustainable lifestyles among them. This can be achieved by engaging them with nature by spending quality time and playing in a natural environment so they feel connected to it and realize the importance of it. Here, environment education and awareness plays an important, crucial role in strengthening their skills and knowledge about the environment. So we need to convert awareness into action by more programs to promote knowledge of the environment. So keeping this in mind, the Environment Education and Awareness Group at TERI, with which I have been associated since 2005, is making efforts to create an environmentally conscious society by empowering students and youth with sufficient knowledge, skills, attitude, and values. And we reach out to communities with the help of the students and youth. Here, I would like to say that, as Ms. Kayla said, that the students have the power to change. And that's what we at TERI also believe in. And that's what we are doing through a series of non-formal initiatives on green curricula and use of distinct pedagogy on climate change education. We have been doing a lot of projects, and I would like to quote a couple of them. For example, the project which we are doing, the Green School project in the remote locations of Jharkhand and Odisha in India, where we are targeting the students coming from the remote areas, from the distinct backgrounds, the economical backgrounds. So under this project, through various programs like webinars, simulation exercises, hands-on activities, exposure trips, we are building the capacity on water issues, energy conservation, waste management, forest and biodiversity, and climate change. And you would be surprised to know that these children who are from the age group between 12 to 16 years are able not only to sensitize their peer groups, but also the community members on various issues. They have been peer leaders in bringing about the change, whether by conserving the water or energy, but also protecting their ecosystems. The idea is to build the capacity such that later they can address the issues that can impact them physically, emotionally, socially, mentally, or even financially, so that in future, when you grow up with this knowledge, you are able to take informed decisions and move towards sustainable living. So similarly, we are also implementing the project like Clean Air Project in India, where we are trying to build the capacities of the students on the impact of air pollution. So there are many projects which we are doing. We are trying to engage the students, but at the same time, it is also essential that we evaluate our knowledge on environmental issues, for which we are doing an Olympiad, which is known as Green Olympiad. This is the first of its kind and has been even being mentioned in the Limca Book of Records for doing an Olympiad on environment. We are doing it since 1999, and this program is supported by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, UNESCO, CBSE Board, KVS, that is Kendra Vidyalaya Sangathan, and Navodaya, NVS, and other educational institutes. These are the initiatives, some of the initiatives that we are doing with the students. Similarly, we are doing a lot of initiatives for the youth, the students who are in their above their or end of the teenage, like 17 or 18, such that we are doing an initiative which is Youth Climate Conclave. This climate conclave is ongoing at this moment, and we have kind of involve the youth across the nation and ask them to raise their voice and share their thoughts in the form of blogs and videos. And now these students are interacting with the experts through a youth climate conclave, which is being organized by Cherry, which started yesterday and will be closing tomorrow. So there are a lot of initiatives that are happening. It's just that you need to get yourself associated with it so that you can build on your knowledge, build on your capacity, and then be a leader, be a person who can take not only the informed decisions, but also motivate others and bring about a change. The catch is that keep doing your best. Whether you are a student or you are a grown-up, what we need to do is together contribute towards combating climate change. And do remember one thing, keep talking about it, and it will create awareness on the issues, and you never know, you keep getting more solutions to address the problem and achieve a holistic development. With this, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nehadi, for telling us about environmental education awareness. Now, I would like to invite Brother Brian Bond. He is currently the director of Edwin Rice International. Brother Brian was born and raised in Geelong, Australia, where he received his primary and secondary education before joining the Christian Brother in 1967. He completed his teacher training and obtained a science degree from the University of Melbourne. He also holds a diploma in social justice studies from YTU and has over 25 years experience as a teacher, deputy principal and principal in Catholic High School in Australia. More recently, before moving to Geneva, Brian had the responsibility of promoting social justice awareness across the Edwin Rice network in his home province and the coordination of the Edwin Rice International Volunteer Scheme for Australia and New Zealand.
Thank you for that introduction, and welcome and greetings to everyone. And I've been asked to say something about children's rights and climate change. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child has been ratified by almost every country in the world. It's a universal agreement that imposes legal obligations on all countries that have agreed to be bound by it. It's over 30 years since it came into force, and whilst it doesn't specifically make a link between climate change and children's rights, it's clear, as we've heard again today, that what is happening to the climate of our planet impacts on the rights of children in a number of ways. Whilst I'm going to quote from the convention when speaking, I'm going to show some slides which use child-friendly language rather than the actual wording in the convention. So I hope my slides can be seen. There we are. For example, Article 6 of the Convention says that every child has the right to life and that states must ensure to the maximum extent possible the survival and development of the child. Yet to take just one example, we know that climate change is impacting food production, which will increase the level of malnutrition, which will adversely affect children's development. The next slide. With climate change impacting on food production, hunger and forced migration will necessarily increase. Article 22 of the Convention says that states must ensure that children in refugee situations receive appropriate protection and humanitarian assistance. That doesn't happen now, and the situation is only likely to get worse as more people are displaced by climate change. Next slide. Article 28 speaks of a child's right to education, which is also jeopardised when they are in a refugee situation or when schools are damaged or destroyed in climate-related disasters. Next slide. Article 24 says that the states must pursue the full implementation of every child's right to health. Yet, as we know, as the earth warms, there will be a greater spread of tropical diseases which will impact on health. Article 24 goes on to speak about the provision of adequate nutritious foods and clean drinking water and the need to take into account the dangers and risks of environmental pollution. Just last week, the World Health Organization issued a report setting out the clear evidence of the damage that air pollution inflicts on human health, with an estimated 7 million premature deaths occurring in the world each year due to air pollution. And many of the pollutant gases released into the atmosphere also contribute to climate change. Next slide. Article 27 speaks of the right of every child to a standard of living adequate for the child's physical, mental, spiritual, moral, and social development. Climate-induced sea level rise, flooding, and extreme weather events obviously severely impact on the standard of living of those affected when houses and schools are destroyed and unsafe living conditions are created. Next slide. Article 30 speaks of the right of every child to enjoy his or her own culture. We know that many Indigenous populations are among the most vulnerable to climate impacts. In the Pacific region, the very existence of low-lying island nations such as Kiribati and Tuvalu are threatened by rising sea levels, with the entire population likely to be forced to relocate, with the resulting loss of their identity, their language, and their culture. The next slide. Articles 34, 35, and 36 speak of the responsibility of states to protect children from all forms of exploitation, including trafficking, child labour, and sexual abuse, all of which risk increasing as a result of increasing levels of poverty or displacement. I could go on, but I think it's clear that climate change poses a serious threat to the rights of children and that states have a responsibility to address the issue according to the convention that they themselves have committed to. The problem is there is a gap between words and their actions. The next slide. The convention also makes it clear that children have the right to express their views and be listened to, which is what makes this webinar, the discussion that will take place, and your contribution to COP26 very important. As we are all aware, it's the current generation of children and young people and generations still to come who will have to bear the consequences of a failure to act, not the current generation of politicians and world leaders. So your voice is especially relevant in holding them to account. And I would just add one further comment to finish. Perhaps many of us are not directly impacted at present in the ways that have been described. But if we are to address the climate emergencies, the changes that are necessary to be made will impact on us, although nowhere near as severely as the ways that have been described. But we may no longer be able to enjoy the same standard of living we enjoy at present or that we aspire to enjoy in the future. We might have to live more simply, with less money to spend on food, on the latest fashions in clothes, or on holidays or entertainment or the latest technology. I think that's a reason why governments, particularly in more developed countries, are slow to act, because they know some of the actions required will be unpopular in the short term. Of course, it's going to cost far more in the long term if we do nothing. But the question we need to ask ourselves, and the one which I will leave you with, is, am I prepared to pay the price for what needs to be done? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Brian. That was indeed really informative, and talking about such an important aspect, that too in such a lucid and child-friendly manner. That was truly inspiring for all of us. Now, I invite you all to take some time to ask yourself if your heart seeks to be the next Ridhima Pandey, the next Greta Thunberg, or the next Tim. If you are inspired to act, we invite you to download our e-Certing Rights app now and earn a certificate as an Earth Proactivist issued by Nine is Mine and UNICEF. Download the e-Certing Rights app from Play Store today. Besides, one of the most important steps you can take is to talk about it. Have conversations around climate emergency and spread awareness. Neelam, do you know what time is it for? It's 4 o'clock. Time for another quiz. Now, you have to answer the question showing on your screen, and you will be getting 30 seconds to answer the same.
What was agreed to in the Paris Agreement that came out of COP21 held in Paris in 2015? Is it to protect biodiversity and end the deforestation of world's rainforests? Or to keep global temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius pre-industrial levels and to pursue a path to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius? Or is it to limit sea level rise to 3 feet above current levels? Or is it to pursue a goal of 100% clean renewable energy? Come on guys, hurry up. Time is ending. Is it that difficult? So the correct answer is to keep global temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius pre-industrial level and to pursue a path to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And now, I would like to invite our last panelist, Ms. Jyoti Raghuvanto, to the forum. Ms. Jyoti works as Creative Content Head with EcoPlot. She is also a part of Aravalli Bachcho team working towards saving the Aravalli forest in Haryana. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I am Jyoti Raghuvan and I'm from Aravalli Bachao. I feel so honored to be in such esteemed company from environmentalists all over the world and the youngsters from all over the world. The bad news just keeps pouring in for these young people. And as an adult, I want to apologize to all of them to be the one to bring these, these series of bad news. We adults, we really messed up. And I'm really sorry. I apologize to all the youngsters who are listening to me today. So I'm part of this movement that started as a, so I live in a state which is called Haryana. And the state of Haryana has the lowest forest cover in India. The national average of our country, the national average of forests is around 20%. And just to give you a perspective, Haryana just has a forest cover of around 3.6%. which is also fast receding. We are losing our forest to, so our forest is called Aravali, and it spans across 4 states. And we are fast losing it to illegal mining, encroachments, and whole lot of other things. What started as a group meeting after reading a report in a newspaper in 2018 that the government is planning to amend the law that protects this forest. They were planning to amend this law and open the forest to construction. So a few of us came together to discuss, to ponder what we can do about this. And this slowly turned into a movement, which now it has become a pan-India movement. And children are involved big time in our movement. We have a social media team, which is being led by the youngsters from many schools. And we do tweet storms, we do protests, and children are mostly at the forefront of whatever we are doing. We even go talk to government representatives, and children come along. And as I often say, we are adults. We don't have much time left on the planet. It is the youngsters who will be left to bear the brunt of our bad decisions, or whatever way we are screwing up we are messing up the planet. All of us, what I was observing is what everybody is talking about, big things like global summits, and a whole lot of programs that the organizations are running. But I want to tell the children, I want to mostly what I talk about is what they can do in their personal lives, in their capacity to bring about that small little change. Like we have one of the biggest landfills in our state. It is very close to where I live. It is barely 15 kilometers. It is called Bandwadi, and it is causing massive pollution. It is causing massive air pollution, land pollution, water pollution. And it stands in the middle of the Aravali forest, which is home to a lot of biodiversity, which is home to a lot of species of trees and animals. And the landfill,
Request the participants to please mute themselves.
So it is causing massive water pollution also, because it is standing in a former mining quarry, which is already 250 feet deep, and 40 lakh tons of waste sits on it, which is polluting the groundwater. The groundwater pollution is traveling. It is inching closer to my home. It is traveling further and further. The nearby villages are so impacted. People are getting all sort of diseases in those villages, and most affected are also the youngsters, because 2019 November, we had such crazy levels of air pollution in the city because of the deforestation, because of the increase in the paddy burning in nearby states. We had an entire week-long school shutdown for the children. So severe was the impact, and the respiratory diseases are on the rise. So when I talk to the youngsters, when I talk to the children, I just tell them to take very, very simple measures to make that change, because I always feel that it is not one person making a lot of big changes, but a group of many people making small little changes. So even if you buy one less chips packet, that would go a long way in reducing the burden on landfills, in reducing the burden on the planet, because that pack of chips requires whole lot of it leaves a whole lot of carbon footprint. So we cannot be just talking about big things and not taking these small steps towards that, bringing about that change that we are talking about. And simple things like segregation of waste. That we are talking to the government representatives to implement decentralized composting, whole lot of solutions that we are talking about. But this will come to a naught if people are not involved, they are not ready to bring about that change in their lives. We cannot until then it's all like empty talks, to be honest. And this is what our movement is aiming to create, not just awareness, but that change of mindset, the change of behavior. And we give talks in schools, we meet a lot of youngsters, we meet a lot of people, and lot of times we go to landfills to protest, and we are in the thick of action. We see the mess we have created, and I propose landfill visits to schools. I tell them to take the children to landfills to see the impact of their behavior. Is my time up? Yeah, so small little steps that you all need to take towards making your own future better is what we should be focusing on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jyoti Di, for sharing about environmental problems and the importance of Aravali forest.
Well, that was overwhelming just to be in the presence of such amazing panelists with so refined insights. Now let us break out into small rooms where each delegate will be given a chance to interact with one another. Each delegate will be asked to introduce themselves and also have an open floor discussion with the panelists in the respective breakout room. We request everyone to please click on the blue button appearing in front of their screens, and this will take you to the breakout rooms.
Neha, do you have any instructions before we go to the breakout room?
The moderators have already been given the instructions, but still I would like to re-emphasize that please keep your introduction very brief, and since we have time constraint, we would like you all to briefly interact with all the panelists and introduce yourselves in terms of your names, country of residence, and your passions. Please click on the join button